They're in court, and the feds come in and go, yeah, it's national security. We authorize them to bring the drugs in. And then it happened with a bunch of other cartels. And then we found out that they're giving guns to gangs all over the U.S., but also overseas. I mean, it's just, they are nothing but total gangsters.
You're talking about the government is exactly. The thing is, we never would have even probably heard about what happened in Mexico if it wasn't for the killing of the federal agent. You know, they say nothing of the 200 other Mexicans that were slaughtered. So, you know, body count doesn't mean anything to people that are running the show. You know, it's collateral damage. So that's why, the NAACP says here in their letter to, however, it says the NAC supports accountability and transparency at every level. Fine. But they say, however, this crusade in Congress reeks of partisan politics. Well, I want to say, what does this letter reek of, you know? And so everybody's using words, this cronyism, and I say let the chips fall where they may, and what we find, as I said before, is just the tip of the dung heap.
No, you're right. Justice be done, may the heavens fall. I found a Cicero quote from BC here. It says, when a government becomes powerful, period, it is a usurper which takes bread from the innocent mouths and deprives honorable men of their substance for votes with which to perpetuate itself. And because the Romans did the same thing with citizens, they would go buy votes. They would take it with welfare taxes and then go to the welfare citizens on the dole and use them to outvote other people that produced. I mean, this stuff's been going on forever.
Yeah, well, now with the internet and stuff, maybe people can, inform each other better. The other day I went on and I saw something about Kissinger, and I don't know if it was real or not, but I wanted to say something about, Kissinger, one of the biggest war criminals that ever was.
Tell you what, we're going to break. Final segment. Frank Serpico, our guest, then Wayne Madsen is coming up with breaking news on Fast and Furious and so much more. Frank, stay there. Final segment. You're a real champ.
Hello, this is Ty Bollinger, author of the best-selling book.
All right, I'm going into the fourth hour. Some stations carry it, some don't, but I'm going to be talking to Dean, Mello, Jake, Quince, and others that have been patiently holding. Dean listening on XM 166. We're going to him first. Got about 4 or 5 minutes left with Frank Serpico. What a legend. Like he said, we've got to inspire other people, and he gave the examples of how he inspired people and never knew he was doing it. I know he certainly inspired me. I was growing up as a child. I'm only 38. I don't know, I was probably like 12 years old or something. And my dad, we went and rented Serpico and popped it in the VCR, or it was on, I don't know, HBO or something. I don't remember. I don't think we had cable when I was 12. The point is, I remember being a little kid with my dad watching it, and my dad going, this is a true story. And then I started noticing a few years later that the police were dealing drugs where I lived, outside Dallas, and then still pulling people over and harassing them. And I'd be like, you deal drugs. What are you doing asking if I have drugs? I don't use drugs. I'll kill you, kid. You're going to jail. Drag me out of the car where I was riding to school with older kids and take me to jail. And they told my dad through our lawyer, because he got contacted, and they said, we're going to kill your son if he doesn't shut up. But then later, the sheriff got busted shipping cocaine in by the FBI, who are a bunch of drug dealers, too, at the top. Frank, briefly, you wanted to make some comments. I forget about what we were talking during the break. What was
about Kissinger?
Oh, yeah, Kissinger. Go ahead.
It's just a classic example how these, terrible people are held up by our government as good people, as examples. And the other day, I don't know how old it was on the Internet, some journalist claimed he saw Kissinger being groped, and...
No. Kissinger admitted it. That happened at the airport, yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I was saying, well, they had a right to, maybe he did have a weapon of mass destruction on him, because he is a terrorist. But anyway, when I went to see the blog, I was pleased to see all the comments that the people were making back and forth. You know, the people know that he was a war criminal, you know, and one said winning the Nobel Prize is not hard when you are one of the founding members of the Bilderberg Zion Club, you know, and, you know, comments like that. So people are aware, you know, they're not asleep. And I'm saying this is all due to the Internet, where people can, you know, reach millions of people around the world. At any rate, in the words of James Madison, he said, no nation could preserve its freedom in the midst of continual warfare. And that's what we're in now, continual warfare. And how much time do we have? Because I'd like to close with the words of Louis D. Brandeis, who was a secular humanist. And I think, wasn't he also on the court? Louis Brandeis?
Sure, go ahead. We got about a minute.
He says, we can have democracy in this country, or we can have great wealth in the hands of a few. But we can't have both.
Well, Frank Serpico, thanks to you standing up for what's right. We now know, I mean, back when you first stood up, people were like, oh, there's no such thing as cops stealing drugs. In the 50s, they said La Cosa Nostra didn't exist. Our naivete is what has allowed us to become this enslaved and our inaction. But thank you for helping pull back some very dangerous veils. And I want you to have a great weekend, and I look forward to maybe in 6 months or so.
Okay, and thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you.
And letting me say my piece.
And thank you for visiting our news website, Infowars.com. Let me say bye to you right here at the end of this segment, Frank. We'll put you on hold. Wow, there goes Frank Serpico. We're going into overdrive for Wayne Madsen, and then your calls straight ahead. It's Friday. I'll be back this Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central with the Sunday show as well.
Thank you for listening.
All right, folks, we're into overdrive on this Friday worldwide transmission. And this happens all the time. I'll be sitting here with a guest talking or listening to a caller or reading an article, and something will click. I'll go, wait a minute. We haven't had Wayne Madsen on in like 2-3 months. But 4 or 5 interviews ago, I don't know, 5-6 months ago or longer, I know a year ago or so, he said, I have a federal informant. You know, they're being tracked. Giffords was shot, but Roll was the main target. And then I later had separate sources that confirmed that was part of a Fast and Furious cover-up. And then I remember Madsen was on, whenever it was, 4 or 5 months ago, was talking about there are reportedly wiretaps of the Attorney General. He broke that. I don't even know if he even remembers that. He has such good sources. You'll watch any national security hearing in Congress, you'll see Wayne Madsen back there in the audience. He was in anti-submarine warfare. Then he worked for the NSA, RCA, a lot of other agencies and groups. And I'm not trying to toot his horn. It's just a fact that so much of what he says is so groundbreaking, and then it just kind of gets put out there, and nothing ever even gets done with the information. But I thought, let's get him on with all his new intel on Fast and Furious. And Wayne, we cover so much, we hardly even never double back to it. But when was that interview that you were bringing up? Big stuff on Fast and Furious, and there are reported wiretaps? Because I remember you saying that. Do you remember saying that?
Oh, certainly. I think it was about 3 months ago or something like that. I had an FBI confidential informant tell me that, look, this whole thing had to do with guns coming from Mexico, going to Mexico, across especially the Arizona-Mexico border. And Judge Roll and Congresswoman Giffords were actually having meetings in Phoenix about what to do with this situation. So this nutcase shows up at a campaign stop and tries to kill both of them, gets the judge, and severely injures Giffords to the point where she could not stay in Congress any longer.
Yeah, and the reason I asked when it was is I think the last time I interviewed you was about 3 months ago. But there was an interview before that. I think it's longer than, wasn't it about 6 months ago? Because I've got a bunch of interviews with you. I want to go find it and then play it on the nightly news tonight to point out that you broke this.
Right. Well, there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. I have a story up on my website today about the fact that there are now investigations of weapon smuggling by various state National Guard personnel. There's a huge investigation now going on in California. And
you brought that up 3 months ago, and now that's in the news. But here's what I want to do. I want to go to break, come back, and have you start over, because some stations don't carry this segment. Most do. Start over with your informant, what they told you, because for those that just joined us, it's now the big headline out there, roll call reporting, that Issa, who's got his own past, was reading into the record that indeed what the Examiner said back in early July is indeed true, that there is, and all this is up at Infowars.com right now, the roll call, but also the link to the Examiner and the rest of it, that these wiretaps exist to the Attorney General. And so now that's confirmed is the point. And then I was just remembering that you had said, Wayne, in one of the interviews that, oh, they already had all the proof and wiretaps that your source had told you, which gives more credibility to what they'd said about the other issue. So I was just remembering I heard this first from you. So let's codify your thoughts on that subject, because I know I just sprung this on you, just called you, and then we'll get your take on it straight ahead. Stay with us. I'm Alex Jones. We are live. It is Friday, 29th day of June 2012. Your calls are coming up for those that have been patiently holding, like Dean in Tennessee, listening on XM 166 and others. Fast and Furious is blowing wide open. The nightmare, Obamacare, written by the insurance companies to rip everybody off, is in place. It's all going to get broken down here. But they've got him in contempt. But, I mean, Holder's just the front man for all this. Investigative journalist Wayne Madsen of WayneMadsenReport.com was on the nightly news about 6 months ago, and then he reiterated this about 3 months ago, last time he was on with us, that Judge Roll had been shot to cover up gun running through Arizona into Mexico. And since then, you know, news has come out that these different towns and cities were involved, not from Texas, from West Texas all the way to Arizona, and that had been really a hit. He has a federal confidential informant. He formerly worked, of course, for the NSA. He's a great investigative journalist. But I remember in the interview we're talking about, oh, they've got proof in Congress. I'm told they're wiretaps. So I remember you talking about that. So recap, because that means you were the first person I know of to break these wiretaps, that Issa has now read into the record that indeed there were confidential wiretaps of people in the Justice Department, or proving that they knew and were directing this. I mean, this is amazing. I mean, tell us what's really going on here and how deep Fast and Furious goes.
Well, NSA has for some time had the authority to listen in, eavesdrop on the phone conversations, and now the email, of course, of any government official, including the Attorney General. Now, they do that for communication security purposes, but it's obvious that they're wiretapping and they uncover any kind of information, especially that which may involve a foreign intelligence operation. They will maintain those wiretaps. Certainly NSA would be very interested in anything having to do with shipping guns to two of the worst drug cartels, the very bloody and violent Zetas and Sinaloa cartels in Mexico. But now we have a Royal Canadian Mounted Police report came out not long ago about guns being shipped up Interstate 75 from as far south as Florida into Ontario. So it's not just Mexico, it's Canada. And a couple of weeks ago, a National Guard member in North Carolina was arrested. He was with Special Operations or Special Forces for the North Carolina National Guard, was arrested for shipping guns into China, into 16 cities and provinces in China. And the FBI